Life and times with music. As you know, I am the host, Brandon Janeu, like always on all podcast platforms everywhere. Brandon Janeu Show. Social media, Instagram threads, real, REAL, Brandon Janeu Show. Go follow me on Instagram and threads, real Brandon Janeu Show. Follow me on Instagram and threads. Facebook is the same, the Brandon Janeu Show. TikTok, Brandon Janeu Show. Go follow me on all those social media platforms. I would appreciate it if you did. If you follow me on all those social media platforms, I would appreciate it if you did. Really, where you go is the YouTube channel, man. YouTube channel, BrandonJaneauShow. Subscribe, comment, like the vids, like the shorts. Um, yes, like everything on the YouTube channel, BrandonJaneauShow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I would appreciate it if you do. So close, so close to 250 subscribers. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel, man. If you haven't, I would appreciate it if you did. Like I said, this is Life and Times with music. And this is an artist breakdown. Now, last couple weeks ago, I did what? An artist breakdown, and it was 50 Cent. But this week, the opposite of that coin, and that's the game. All leading up to the infamous debate between the game and 50 Cent. And this is going to be fun. But this is the artist breakdown where I talk about one artist and pretty much give my breakdown on their careers, how I feel about them. So let's get into it, man. The Game. Compton's very own The Game. The Game had a buzz, man. Early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s with the mixtape flow, jumping on DJ Clue mixtapes. The Game had a buzz from a very early starting point of his rap career with the mixtape game. And of course, that all changed a moment he finally uh, was signed to his idol, one of his idols, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine's Interscope Records, joining Aftermath Records, and Dr. Dre was a massive part in the early stages of Game's career. He's very open and honest about how much of a fan he was of NWA. Who was growing up in LA. NWA was, and especially coming from also Compton. Um, NWA was a massive piece of Game's youth, especially in his young career. You couldn't find anywhere where the Game didn't show love to NWA. Um, but signing to Interscope, Aftermath Records, Dr. Dre. Around this time when Dr. Dre and the game got signed to Aftermath Records, this was the time around the same time where G Unit, 50 Cent's G Unit, was starting to just take the fuck off. I mean, Good Richard Die Trying already had dropped, so millions upon millions of copies, and the game then comes in, and gets signed to G Unit. Well, according to Game, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine came up to him and said, "Hey, we got an idea, we got a plan. Let's put you in G Unit. We got Buck for the South. We got, of course, 50 and Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks for New York. We need that West Coast feel, that West Coast rapper." And that was the game. Now, for a lot of people that want to, like we do nowadays, and especially nowadays in life, people that want to revise history, they want to tell history in their own sense. There was a point in time where the West Coast, particularly, only had one significant name. I mean, they had others, like Ice Cube would drop here and there, and E40 would drop here and there, Too Short would drop here and there. But Snoop was really the significant name of the West Coast, especially in the early 2000s. So when the game took off, and when the game became one of the names in the West Coast, that brought the West Coast a different level of success at that time that they hadn't seen. That was a new beacon of hip hop royalty in the West Coast. So when I hear people try to say and try to downplay the game because of Kendrick Lamar, it's like, bruh, I get it, I understand, but we gonna stop talking like the game wasn't that nigga, like the game wasn't that fucking dude. We gonna stop talking like he wasn't because we know he was. Again, a lot of these, maybe he wasn't a huge game fan, or maybe he wasn't, that type of. But man, the game when he dropped in the West, oh man, that shit was everywhere, man. Like, and then on top of that, being a part of G Unit, who already had a buzz and a massive fucking buzz in the industry into fans, for him to be a part of that team and that label with 50 pushing it too, it was just like, damn. Of course, the game's documentary album comes out and it's a fucking smash hit. Of course, the first time we ever heard the game, I would say, first time I ever heard the game was How We Do. This is how we do. We make a move, act a fool while we up in the club. This is how we do. Nobody do it, we do it, so show us some love. This is how we do. 50 in the game had instant success, like instant success. Holy shit! And then of course, Hate It or Love It came out. West Side Story, all these songs. The documentary album is considered probably one of the best debut projects. Yeah, probably one of the best debut projects. Also in that 2000 stretch, it was just a great friggin' album, man. Of course, you had Kanye, produced Dreams, which also was a smash fucking hit. I mean, documentary by the game is considered probably one of the best debut rap albums of that time period as well. A lot of people, again, like I said, you try to downplay it, but it is what it is. Now, of course, after everything, after the documentary success, after everything that went down with the game, literally, what he dropped it in what 04 or 05? I want to say 50 dropped it in 2003. Kanye dropped in 04. Game dropped in 05. Yeah, that's how it went. I think 50 dropped in 03. Game dropped in Kanye dropped in 04. Game dropped in 05. Yeah. Well, anyway, the documentary comes out. It's a smash fucking hit. It's a killer album. But then this is when we start to hear about the problems between him and 50 in G Unit and them not really getting along and you know, basically not fucking with one another. And you hear all the problems that was going on, internal problems with those guys. And then eventually that ends up being the game's own detriment and was dropped from G Unit, not Interscope, but dropped from G Unit because they just did not want to. Well, the problems were a little bit too much for everybody, and then 50 in the game start beefing, which if you actually pay attention, is still going on to this fucking day. But yeah, so the game and 50 Cent beefing leaves leaves this into an apparel of what the fuck is going to happen with the game. The game is basically now, not on G units. What's going to happen to the game's career? 2 years later, after everybody's doubting him, everybody's saying he can't really drop another big single, he won't be the same after G Unit. The game drops One Blood, and this fucking song goes every fucking where. I like, God Almighty, you know how many fucking One Blood remixes I heard in my, like, that shit was everywhere. '07 was one. I was One Blood out. This shit. you people talk about the Millie remixes. That motherfucking One Blood had every remix everywhere. You had one Crip. You had one G. Like it was just a lot. People just claiming sets. I was like, what the fuck is going on with this shit today? One Blood takes off. It's a fucking smash hit. and it fucking solidifies the game as a fucking hit maker. He's got something. The Doctor's Advocate drops, and it is a banger of a fucking second album. Sophomore debut, that sophomore slump shit clearly does not hit the game. The album debuts at number one. It becomes one of the best second sophomore albums of the year, of his career, of time. It puts the game in another stratosphere of hip hop success. Now at this time in '07, oh, sorry, at this time in '07, this is where the South really starts to take shape of hip hop. T.I.'s out, Jeezy's out, Rick Ross is out. Of course, Wayne is just running the game at this time. Kanye's killing it at the time. There was so much diversity in music at the time. Common had an album out. You had Lupe Fiasco. You had so many fucking rappers that was finding success in '07. Fab. You had Fab with the mixtapes, and everybody was just killing shit. Everybody had a piece of success, but the South was at this time really running shit. But the game was definitely killing it in '07. Of course, you had One Blood on there. I think you had Won't Get Far on that project too. I think Won't Get Far with him and Kanye is also on that project. I gotta check and see. I gotta remember it. But that project went every fucking word. That was a banger of a fucking project. It solidified the game as a name to stay in hip hop. It's not just something that just people. It's not just something that just happened. The game is actually a fucking household name. He's a rapper that will stay at the top of the charts as long as he puts out good music. I want to say a year later. Yeah, I think a year later, maybe. Yeah, a year later, the game drops LAX, his third studio album. This is where he, I think, features no Keisha Cole and Game had Game's Pain on Doctor's Advocate. Camera Phone with Neo, I think, was on LAX. But My Life with Lil Wayne was on there. My Life with Lil Wayne was on there, which again was a smash fucking hit. I mean, the shit was a smash fucking hit. Um, yeah, My Life by Lil Wayne and the Game was a smash hit. It solidified LAX. It gave it another, you know, hit single before the album really dropped, and that was what stabilized that debut, that project. Then you had what? 2000 and I want to say 11. Yeah, 2011. The Game drops the Red album. The Red album. You have Kendrick on that project. Drake's on that project. You have Kendrick on that project. Drake on that project. Wayne on that project. Tyler the Creator. I mean, it was collection of young artists coming into the game, and also a lot of the veterans also that Game fucked with. The Red album was his fourth studio album. It was a good, dope album. It's actually a really dope album. Like I said, it's the first time you probably heard, for some of y'all that maybe heard Kendrick. If you haven't heard Kendrick before then, the Red album was the first time you really heard Kendrick. So yeah, man, that whole album was fire. Then of course later on next year he drops Jesus Piece, which is another banger and one of my favorite Game albums. But no matter what happens in Game's career, he always seems to create fucking problems for himself. It doesn't matter what the fuck he does. This is Jay Z. He's dissing Jay Z. The reason why him and 50 fell out is because he would never really pick 50's side in the beefs that he was having at the time with Nas and Fat Joe and Jadakiss, and so he was like, I don't have a problem with those dudes. Like, why am I gonna be trying to like, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't got a problem with them dudes. Everywhere the Game went, he had a problem with something or someone, and it was just like, bro, you can't keep dissing people just because you want to. That shit has ramifications on your career. the game is kind of like 50 in a sense, but he's not because 50 at least could stand on business. I've seen the game say shit and then kind of take it back later. So I think Game is one of the best rappers I've ever heard. When I was young, the Game was one of the best rappers I've ever heard. And the man's still dropping music to this day. Music is still a very huge commodity for him. He's still killing the game. But the game's own detriment, to the game's own detriment, has been he creates these unrealistic shit in his head. Excuse me. To get pissed off, and it's like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Like when they did the Super Bowl, and Dr. Dre had Eminem and Snoop, and then 50 came out of nowhere and performed with them. And Kendrick was on stage, Mary J. Blige, and the game was up in arms over that. And it's like, what the fuck are you mad about, bro? Like 50, Eminem is 50's artist. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you getting upset? Like, I didn't understand that situation. I never did. And the game has derailed his own career. And that's why I'm saying it like this. Because the game has derailed his own career. There's no reason for the game to have put himself in this many miscalculations of success that he has had. Like he could have been just as big, if not bigger, than 50. Now 50 had a business mind, unlike Game. But when we look at the pantheon of rappers of the last 20 something years, the game should be just as highly represented and respected in the game as, let's say, 50 or a Little Wayne, who he came into the game with. Little Wayne, who took off also around that time. Kanye, who took off around that time. The game should be in that same conversation as these guys. An influencer, one of the best rappers in the West, all that shit. He should be in that same conversation, but he's not. And it's fucked up that he's not. But he's done it to himself. He's done this to himself. He should be considered one of the greatest West Coast rappers of all time. He should be in the conversation. When you speak on the West Coast, there should be a conversation, a large conversation about how the game actually got the West Coast on the map at a time where the West Coast only had Snoop. The game was the only one that kept the West Coast on the map. That should be the conversation, but it's not because everybody always got to refer to the fact that he fucked up his own shit. The game fucked up his own shit, and it's just like you just sit there and be like, what? How the fuck did you do that? Like, how did you do that, bro? Like, there is no reason for the game to not be considered one of the greatest to ever do it. But when you break down his career, you look at all the moments in his career. Every time he had something good going for himself, he shot himself in the foot with fucking dumbass comments or stupid ass things he was saying. It's just like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? The game should be considered one of the greatest to ever do it, but he's not. I think he is, but he's not. And that's kind of crazy to me because when I say all the time, like, you can't sit here and tell me that he isn't in the same conversation or vein as a Kendrick Lamar or a Snoop Dogg when you look at the West Coast rap scene at a in a 25-year scope. And I'm 32, so I can literally sit there and say from 99 to now, the game should be in the conversation of one of the greatest West Coast rappers of all time. I think he is, but I don't think people reveal like I don't think people look at him like they look at, like I say, like a Kendrick or a Snoop, even in a sense. And that's crazy to sit there and say because he should be. Like the game got albums, like bodies of work that is, if you put it up to other rappers of that time period, the game albums have stood the test of time, which is crazy to say. He's got the hits. It's not like he doesn't have the fucking hits. He's got the fucking hits. It's like, but he does this himself. He puts himself in this shit. He puts himself in these situations. So yeah, man. All in all, man, if it wasn't for the game in the early 2000s, the West Coast wouldn't have a pulse. at a certain point. I mean, yeah, Snoop was doing Snoop. The Bay Area was kind of still there with E40 and Too Short, but it wasn't really too many West Coast rappers that were getting off like the game was. Of course, Nipsey, this opened the door for Nipsey Hussle later on in the West Coast to get himself going. Of course, we all know Kendrick started popping off in the West around this time. J Rock, TDE, particular, just the whole TDE field, the whole TDE movement in the West Coast around the mid late 2000s, early 2010s. If it wasn't for Game keeping the West Coast afloat for a good stretch of time, I mean, I don't know where the West would be right now. Uh, the Game should be way more perceived as one of the greats. He should definitely be in a conversation as one of the greatest West Coast rappers of all time. I mean, I think he's in the conversation, but I don't think he's in the conversation. Um, yeah, man. And of the last 20 something years of rap, you can't really say too many West Coast rappers that held down the West Coast that much outside of maybe Kendrick, Snoop, and the Game. Like it's yeah, Nipsey. You can say Nipsey. You can say YG. But the Game is one of those dudes, man. He started. I mean, he started becoming a household name in 2004. Like no, 2004, 2005. Man, I've been doing this shit for like since what? We're in 2026, so for 21 years we've known the Game. We've known his music. 21 years. So yeah, man. He should be considered way more than what he is, and that's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. But that's it, man. Till next time, I am Brandon Janeau. Go listen to some Game. Go watch him on you. Go watch his videos on YouTube. Go listen to his albums, all on musical platforms everywhere. Till next time, I'm Brandon Janeau. Peace.